Hello all and welcome to another review of mine. Today I'm gonna review this Gargantuan Dutch Arctic Field Ration, menu number 3. This ration contains a whopping 5,913 calories and weighs a total of 1,469 grams. What is interesting about these Dutch rations is that they consist of modular components. So this one has a dry operational ration, then it contains also an energy module, and it contains the cold weather module. And that comes to a very large MRE. Another thing that's interesting about these Dutch rations is that they actually contain 5 mains. So for breakfast you have not just chocolate muesli, but you also have oatmeal with plums, almonds and seeds. And then for lunch and dinner you have risotto with mushrooms, and not one but 2 pasta with beef and vegetables. And it will be the largest ration that I will have ever consumed and or reviewed. I'm also quite excited about this because I'm actually Dutch myself. Really interested to see what my own country serves the people in the field. I've seen a lot of reviews of these kind of rations before already, and there are a few things that seem a little bit strange to other reviewers, and I hope I can give a little bit of extra explanation about the Netherlands or the Dutch in general that might explain some of the choices that are made in this ration. But without further ado, let's open up this massive ration. There is an easy peelable seal with a Ziploc, and I think that's just how these are made. There's just one big Ziploc bag, but it's not a tear, it's just like a Ziploc, so you can just open it up like this. And here's a look inside. Really packed and a huge amount of components. And obviously I'm not gonna eat all of it in one go. I will break them up in breakfast, lunch and dinner. But let's start unpacking this massive ration. So first up we have a very large accessory pack. I will unpack that later. Then we have what I think is the cold weather / energy module in one. And then we have all of the mains, beverages, and what else we get, because it will be a surprise for me as well. Besides the mains, I don't really know what's in these. But first I'll show you what's in the big pouches, and then I'll open the other bags up. So first up we have our Odifo risotto with mushrooms. This is 125 grams, and once rehydrated it will contain 549 calories in total. It also contains white rice and then cheese, so it will be probably quite cheesy. I don't know how I will actually like that, because I don't like cheese, basically. But interested to see. I never had a freeze-dried Odifo meal before, so also quite curious to see how that will turn out, if they are as good as the Mountain House or Norwegian freeze-dried rations. Then we have a oatmeal with plum, almonds and seed porridge. This is 100 grams, which will need 240 milliliters of boiling water. And it will have a total caloric value of 404. And then we have our chocolate muesli. We get 100 grams of that, to which we need to add 100 grams of boiling or cold water. And that will contain a total of 398 calories. So that's already a very large breakfast. Then we have the first of our pasta with beef and vegetables. I'm not quite sure why they put 2 of these pasta with beef and vegetables in there rather than another main. I have another ration that does have 3 completely different main meals. So perhaps you're supposed to add them together, or perhaps this is one of the favorites and people actually like them. Then we have a really nice booklet. Handboek rantsoenen, voeding om optimaal te presteren. An entire booklet with instructions, caloric value. Wow, this is so Dutch. I can't imagine any other country putting in like a fully printed 14, 15 page color pamphlet with, instructions how to eat something. We have a whey 100 vanilla milkshake protein powder. Get 30 grams of that, no sugar added. Then we have one isotonic beverage base with grapefruit flavor. We have another isotonic drink with grapefruit flavor. So 2 of the same flavors. Another isotonic beverage base with exotic flavor. Another beverage base with exotic flavor. So we won't go thirsty drinking this. And if you thought we were done with beverage bases, there's a lot of beverage bases in this ration. We got not 1, but 2 of these Odifo orange flavored isotonic drinks. So that's 6 total so far, actually 7, including the whey protein. And then we have a little pack of tortillas. So far already, this seems like a huge amount of stuff. Like, I'll just put it on here so you can see just how ridiculous this is. And I think a good way to exemplify that is by going through the accessory package, because there's a lot of different variety and choices in there that I'd never really seen in other rations before. The onslaught of drinks continues because we have, to start with, 3 freeze-dried coffees. Then we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 teas. That puts the total of drinks in this ration to 14. And then you think we're done, but no, we also have 2 absolutely massive instant cocoa beverage powders. So now we are at 16 beverages, but we also get 2 soups, which are semi-drinkable, I guess. To go with that, we have 7 sugars, 1 pack of Olivo spicy sauce. Interested to see if that is the sambal or that they don't have it anymore. We still have this massive accessory pack or extra energy cold weather module with what I presume to be is mostly snacks and biscuits, but let's see, which basically looks like a meal in itself. I've seen MREs being smaller than this. We got a Nutwalker pack of roasted and unsalted peanuts. We got 50 grams of that. Then we have a pack of tuna with lime and pepper. We got 85 grams of that. And then we have 85 grams of lemon cake, which has a best before date of February 2026. Then we have 2 antibacterial wipes. Then we have 1 pack of napkins or toilet paper, 1 Olivo 40 grams of dark chocolate. Then we have 1 little package of 20 grams of apricot jam. We get a vitamin D tablet. I presume that is for the lack of sun in an Arctic environment. Then we have 95 grams of fruit biscuits, also made by Olivo, so not the regular Dutch ones anymore. Then we have 3, interesting, never seen this before, foldable 3 whole wheat biscuits, 16 grams each, so 2 flavors of chewing gum, peppermint and spearmint, 1 pack of peanut butter, 1 pack of hazelnut spread or Nutella, I guess. And I'm running out of space where to put things, to be honest. All right, so I'll just put them there. Then we have 1 cereal bar with caramel flavor. And then we are done, I think. We just have 1 spoon, actually pretty sturdy. I don't know if this is plastic. It feels like plastic, but it kind of looks like it's made from another material. So this might be a very sturdy sort of wooden or wood pulp spoon. It's a lot better than the ones in the Norwegian or the Swedish rations that I reviewed recently. And then finally, we have 2 toothpicks for dental hygiene. So yeah, that is it. This is really quite big. I have to zoom out. And this is the full ration. And there's things stacked up here. So this is a lot of items. Not even duplicative items, but items with different choices. So people can get what they want. And, 14, 16 drinks, 5 mains, a whole bunch of sides and snacks. Really curious to see how I'm gonna actually divide this up, because this is a lot of things to try out and it will take a lot of time. Of course, I know this is so much because this is supposed to be an Arctic field ration, right, in a cold environment, at least for a 24-hour ration one. So yeah, I'm gonna divide this up in 3 separate meals. So in a bit, I'll be back with breakfast. And welcome back for breakfast. So this is what I chose. I'll have the oatmeal and the muesli, plus some other things. I'll explain it when I open it up. But first, let's rehydrate our oatmeal and our chocolate muesli. There's open really easily, so that's nice. Has a Ziploc seal and quite a floury consistency. And here you can see it, quite floury. That's actually also the main ingredient. You can see the chia seeds in there and some of the flax seeds, I think. And they also come with a gusset, so you can nicely set it down. And let's add some warm water. I will make both of them warm because I don't like cold oatmeal and muesli. We need 240 grams of that. So we should put the water up to there. And then let's give it a good mix. There's a very cereally smell. I don't know if that's the word, but I think the downside of these bags with gussets is that it's hard to get everything out of the nooks and crannies. And then we have our muesli. The fill line is a lot lower. And here it is. Quite a lot of chocolate puffs, a little bit of chocolate chips, and I guess some cacao powder and some milk powder. Might have just overdone that a little bit. It has a nice chocolatey smell. Let's make our drinks. We have quite a lot to go still. Here we have our breakfast melange tea. Interestingly enough, we call this an English melange, and in English it's just a breakfast tea, but that's how we call it. Just gonna make our instant coffee freeze-dried. I've heard these are not great, and they say you should only add 125 milliliters of water. That's not a lot, and that's how I like it, so perhaps I just like it the way Dutch people like it. And that should be enough. Espresso strength, basically. Then we have still two more drinks to go. Interesting, there's probably like 24-hour rations with less drink than what you get for just breakfast here. Then let's make our whey protein drink. Actually smells very sweet and very vanilla-like. So another fun fact is that this traditional sort of Dutch breakfast for most people is just a sandwich with cheese or something sweet like chocolate sprinkles. And then you have that with a glass cold of milk. And for lunch, most people will have exactly the same. So that's why I'm using the protein vanilla powder. Most people in the Netherlands probably would want to have some form of milk with their breakfast. And you should add about 250 to 300 milliliter of cold water or milk. Stir it a little bit more. And then we have the Olifant. Add 250 milliliters of water to that. So regular Olifant powder, we have seen that before on this channel, so nothing too special. I think these are pretty okay in general. Not my favorite, but pretty decent. So yeah, we have 4 drinks in total, 2 mains, and then we still have some of the sides. We have a pretty banged up pack of fruit biscuits, best before April 2026, so well in date. And there they are. Partially intact, I guess. Then we have our tortillas. These are from Bridgeford. I always like tortillas in any ration. I think they're great. And there they are. We got 2 of them. They're a little bit like fragile, so they're not super pliable, but I'm gonna put those on the side. And then we have our tuna with lime and pepper. That's just a standard pack of tuna. Smells very fishy, so I'm just gonna put that here. Normally, I guess you wouldn't have this for breakfast, but as sort of an in-between meal snack with tortillas, I guess. But you can't really use the tortillas with anything else. And it also doesn't really want to vacate its bag quite easily, so I need to use my spoon, which I'm gonna wash afterwards, because otherwise it's gonna be a very fishy oatmeal. That is almost done, but we still have our oatmeal. I think I'll put the oatmeal on the tray. So let's put this in the main compartment. I should make about 400 grams of just the oatmeal. And then we have our chocolate muesli. So that I did put a little bit too much water. You can see all of the rice crisps sort of puffed up. So yeah, that is it. That's a really substantial breakfast. I mean, I guess we can sort of try. I mean, I know we won't fit, but to put a little bit of the chocolate muesli on there. Will it fit? It actually does fit. So yeah, that's like 99% of the muesli in the little tray. It is a lot of food. That is a full tray, basically. Guessing the apricot jam I will use on the biscuits. But yeah, let's try the porridge. I guess that actually rehydrated quite nicely, but this is how that looks like. There's a little bit of leakage there, but you can see the seeds, some of the almonds, and there's also fruits in there, plums. So let's try. Here we go. And that is actually really not bad. I was afraid it would be watery, but it's quite sweet. It has a little bit of a creamy texture. And you can really taste the plums in there. So it's actually quite a good porridge, which I did not expect to like, but it's actually really good for what it is. A decent texture in here. You have the seeds, quite a lot of them, quite a lot of the fruit. It's quite sweet. And it doesn't take cereally at all. And you still have like the whole oats basically in those clumps. So that's really not a bad porridge at all. So quite happy with that. Then a more challenging one will be to get to the muesli without spilling half the tray. There are some puffs and some little cocoa bits or chocolate bits, and then that's in this sort of chocolate milk with a little bit too much water in it, probably like 20-30 mils too much. You should only add 100 milliliters. But yeah, let's try. And that's also not bad. There also are some nuts in there, like some almond bits, I guess, or some seeds to give it a little bit of texture. The puffs are completely disintegrated because it's been in the water too long, but it's a really nice, mild flavor. So one of my favorite muesli so far in an MRE. I think these are quite excellent for quite plain breakfast foods. So yeah, there's a close-up. It's dripping a little bit, but it's actually a lot more flavorful probably than it looks. But it's quite nice. So far, so good. And to wash it away, let's use our isotonic orange beverage base. That's actually also quite nice. So it basically tastes like orange juice from concentrate. Quite natural, not too sweet, quite sour and tart. So I think that's actually a really good drink. And then we also have our vanilla whey protein milkshake. Very frothy, so let's try. And that's quite good. The texture is a little bit like milk. It's a little bit like watery still. And the initial flavor is quite nice and sweet. And then afterwards you get this sort of chalky taste, and you can also sort of taste some artificial sweeteners. Again, it's a protein drink. It's not supposed to be like super good for what it is, and it's mostly functional, and then anything else is okay. Perhaps you could also combine it with the orange juice and sort of make a mixed drink. I'll do that actually. So you have so many of the beverage bases, you could probably easily add one to the vanilla protein shake if it actually is a good combination. So let's try. Let's try to put about half and half. Something like that. Doesn't look super appetizing, but let's try our mixed drink. And that actually makes it a lot more palatable. So probably what I would do, I would just make one big beverage out of these two. And I think it actually goes quite well with the orange, strangely enough. I don't know if orange milk is a thing anywhere in the world, but that tastes quite nice. And then next up, I guess we'll have the tortillas with the tuna. Let's try and not get some tuna in my oatmeal. Here we have the tuna. I'll try a little bit on its own. And that's nice. It's tuna and flour oil, so it's a little bit fatty. I definitely think you can taste the lime really well. And that makes it a lot fresher. I'm guessing as well, you could probably make like these little tuna burritos with the hot sauce. I guess that would be the best combination. I guess you could make two, but I would use one. So here we have our tuna burrito. I'll try a little bit of the tortilla by itself. And that's okay. It's not as good as an American MRE tortilla. It's a little bit more fragile. It sort of like breaks apart easier. I think the American one's more pliable, especially if you heat them up in the MRE. So here we go. This is our tuna burrito. And yeah, that is quite nice. Good combination. And the tuna is not too fishy. So I think the burrito, any fishiness sort of dissolves in the burrito as well because it's quite plain. And also don't really know what else you could do with your tortilla. I guess you have peanut butter and the Nutella. And then we also still have our fruit biscuits. So here we go. Yeah, those are quite nice. Obviously they're beaten up. They're quite dark, quite sweet actually. They remind me a little bit of gingerbread. So, you know, cinnamon, nutmeg kind of spices in them. So it's really a good one actually. It's very pleasant and very Christmassy. So I think that's a really good biscuit. But we still have also the apricot jam. Never had it from Orifo, so take a little bit straight from the pouch. And that's actually really good. I'm not a fan of most of the apricot jams and a lot of the MREs because they're mostly just sweet. But this is excellent apricot flavor. Really, really good. And I guess you can also add that to the fruit biscuit. That's sort of my initial thing. And now you can see it now a lot. It's like little pieces of apricot in there. And it's very, very flavorful. So that's a really good one. Here you go. And that is also an excellent combination. Really good, like the biscuits and the apricot jam. So hats off to Orifo. So far, everything in this ration has been good. And the few components that by itself wouldn't be very interesting, you can combine to something more interesting. So that's cool. And there's a lot of other variations because there's so many components in this. You could probably put some of the beverage-based powder in the oatmeal if you want. You can put some of the apricot jam in the oatmeal. You could mix the oatmeal and the muesli to make one big chocolatey porridge or whatever. So far, really, really impressed. Then as a final part of this meal, we have our very dark English breakfast tea. Been steeping for probably a little bit too long, but yeah, that's just regular plain old tea. And then we have our freeze-dried coffee, very strong, very dark. That's actually not a good coffee at all. That's like more bitter than a Nescafe instant or something like that. Not a great coffee, but then again, I would drink buckets of this because I just like dark coffee, and you know, quantity is a quality of itself, right? Especially in this ration, you have so many drinks, so many options. So I'm sure you could combine this with, you know, the chocolate drink. You could probably make some form of mochaccino or something like that, right? You could also add it to your protein milkshake to have in one and go. You could also actually probably use the protein milkshake as a creamer for your coffee. The possibilities with these components and the amount of components in this ration is just pretty amazing, to be honest. But yeah, that was it for breakfast. I'm gonna finish most of this. It's already gonna be a huge amount of food, so I'm not gonna stuff myself. Also not gonna eat any of the duplicates because I'm not in the field, I'm not exercising, and I don't need to eat 6,000 calories today. Probably also don't need to eat like 3,000 or 4,000 calories today. So I'll eat from this what I will like. But so far, all of the components have been really good, and surprisingly so, the oatmeal and the porridge. Really tasty and really good. And I'm not a big porridge or oatmeal fan. So yeah, that was it for breakfast. And then see you in a few hours for lunch. Hello all, and welcome back for lunch. For lunch, this is what I decided to have, and the main will be the risotto with mushrooms. For which the second ingredient is cheese, so I'm not gonna like this very much, probably. But the nice thing about this ration is that they give you an extra one of the other main. So, but first I'm just gonna fill this up with water, and then I'm gonna take the other components out. And let's open the main up. This is how that looks like. You can see the cheese, you can see some mushrooms, some vegetables, and I guess some vegetable broth. It smells mostly just like instant soup. Not a huge amount actually. Doesn't look like a lot. Ooh, this is 125 grams dehydrated, and you have to add 275 milliliters of boiling water. And this ration was produced on the 20th of March 2023 with a best before date of March 2027. So 4 years of shelf life, and I presume this also makes it. And I presume that also means that this ration is produced in 2023. So the whole ration has a 4-year shelf life. Add some boiling water. We have our fill mark here. And that's about it. 225, we are at the fill mark. Let's mix this up. I don't have the normal spoon anymore. I sort of threw it out. So we gotta do it with a regular spoon. And now that's mixed up. Actually, the gusset wasn't fully there. I'm gonna add a little bit more water. And let's mix that. So it does have a very savory sort of mushroom smell now. So it looks very creamy. And while I have the hot water out, might as well make our drinks. So we have our dehydrated instant soup. Here it says curry soup. And let's add that to our mug. That's quite a lot of powder actually. There's no pasta or anything like that you sometimes have in these instant soups. Just add some water. Needed to add 175 milliliter. Probably did about that. And as a final hot drink, we have our green tea. That is just a tea bag. Then we have our grapefruit flavored drink. The orange one was pretty good. I'm not quite sure if this one will also be good. Sort of curious. These seem like quite similar to the ones in the German ration. Probably will have the same flavor profile as well. And we should add 250 milliliters of water to that. So about there. And let's mix those up. I guess that's also why you get 6 of them, so you can make a half-liter canteen every meal rather than just 250 milliliters. And as that is still rehydrating, I'm gonna open the Nut Walker nuts. Orifo, we got 50 grams of that. Nothing but unsalted peanuts, roasted and unsalted. There they are. They're quite dark. You can definitely see that they were roasted. I guess you could also use these in the muesli. Let's try them out. Yeah, they were okay. They're peanuts, but they're a little bit bland. This would have been better if it would have been salted or have some barbecue over it or something like that. By themselves, I don't think these are really like too enjoyable. Now the part that I am looking forward to the most probably, which is the hazelnut spread and the peanut butter on the whole wheat biscuit. So let's try. This one is actually pretty okay. The other ones are pretty danged up, but this one felt relatively intact. These are very whole grain. I don't know if the texture shows, but they look like very coarse, grainy cookies. Let's try a little bit by itself. So that is a very grainy, almost like, yeah, sawdust tasting cookie. Not really a big fan of it. It is like aggressively grainy and a little bit salty. But let's open up our hazelnut spread. I'll try a little bit by itself. Quite runny, so that looks quite nice. Looks like Nutella. Sort of tastes like Nutella as well. Obviously a knockoff. I think there's more chocolate in there than hazelnuts, but overall that's definitely not bad. I mean, fake Nutella is still better than no Nutella. I'm gonna add this to our oatmeal cookie, see if that improves it. So yeah, that cookie definitely needs something to add to it because I don't think by itself it's any good. But the hazelnut spread definitely helps. Then let's try our peanut butter. Let's knead that. A little bit runny there, it's quite smooth. But let's try it. Yeah, that's quite a natural tasting peanut butter. I like that one a lot. Much better than sort of the American MRE peanut butter. There's a little bit of separation. Perhaps I didn't need it fully, although I did need quite a lot. But let's just put this on the cracker, a lot of it. Let's try. And you can definitely taste it's more of a natural peanut butter. Like peanuts themselves, it's not a chunky peanut butter, but you can definitely feel. Obviously the way to go, I think, is to make a cracker with half peanut butter, half Nutella. So yeah, you could make a little peanut butter and Nutella sandwich out of that and eat it like that. And that's a little bit messy eating it. Not all of it made it into my mouth, but that's a very good combination. Probably get enough to use them on the other two whole wheat cookies as well. So that's just how I would use that. And before we go to the main, let's just before we move on to the main, let's just cleanse our palate with some of the grapefruit drink. It is different from the German one for sure. It's very mild. It's actually quite refreshing and it only has a hint of acidity there. So it's really quite a good drink, actually. Normally with grapefruit, it can be a little bit too tangy, a little bit too sour. Definitely not the case here. You can take a sip of our curry soup. Rehydrated well, thickened up a little bit, so it's definitely soup. Mild curry flavor, obviously no spiciness in there. That's quite nice and pleasant. But yeah, then for the main event, let's see how our risotto rehydrated. No. So comes out very clean. A little bit left in the corner, but should be fine. Oh, yeah, this smells super cheesy actually. And you can see there's a lot of cheese in there. Sort of melted. You can see the strains of cheese or the hairs of cheese sort of dangling. But it rehydrated really well, actually. Looks very, very natural, actually. There's some other vegetables in there. You can see some bell pepper and some different mushrooms as well. They're not the same one. Let's try. So yeah, that is okay. It's not too cheesy actually, though there's a lot of cheese in there. It's mostly just creamy. Very mild flavor, more like herbs, like garden herbs, a little bit of mushroom, actually a little bit bland. So it rehydrated super well though. The rice is perfect. It is not mushy. It has a good texture. Freeze-dried main-wise, like this rehydrated really well. And I actually think this could use the spicy sauce. So that squirted out a lot. So yeah, here it is with the spicy sauce. Sort of looks like a Tabasco kind of sauce. Let's try it like that. So the hot sauce is actually a little bit spicy. I have a good spice tolerance, so it's not too bad. But it actually does have a punch to it, a kick to it. Very vinegar forward. It definitely adds a little bit extra to this. Overall, not a bad addition to the menu. And happy they did add it because this dish definitely needs something to spice it up, to get it to another level. Before I finish off the meal off camera, I didn't take the vitamin D tablet for breakfast, so I'll add it now. I guess that's an addition. because you won't get a lot of sunlight. It's an interesting addition, actually. So we get a really tiny little pill, and we can wash that away with the green tea. So here it is, bottoms up. And green tea is just green tea itself. Not very strong, even though it was seeping for probably like too long. And to wrap up this meal, I'm gonna eat the cereal bar. And of course this has a caramel flavor. Yeah, very sticky. So it's more like a flapjack than like a muesli bar, which I'm a big fan of flapjack, so let's try. Here we go. That's actually really good. It has a great texture. Has a a caramel flavor to it, not too sweet, and it just has a really nice subtle caramel flavor to it. So also just a really good component. So yeah, that was it for lunch. Overall, a great lunch. There were no bad components in this. I think the peanuts and the main were more on the bland side, but I would still eat it in a pinch. And see you soon for dinner. Hello all and welcome back for dinner. So this is the selection I made to have for dinner. There are some extra components which I'll show at the end that I won't consume today, simply because it's too much. But as a main, we have our pasta with beef and vegetables, of which we get 2. So I'm only gonna eat 1. So this main weighs 125 grams dehydrated. We need to add 275 milliliters of water for a total of 507 calories. The main ingredient is pasta, which is not really surprising. But the second one is wine sauce. So no idea what that is. And like always, let's rehydrate our main first before we do anything else. So that's how that looks like. It sort of smells like tomato soup, actually, opening this up. So perhaps that's the wine sauce. You can see some bits of meat there, but not a whole lot. So this actually just looks like pasta you could buy from a supermarket, like rehydrated, a little bit fancier, a little bit more meat. But that's sort of what this reminds me of. There's some vegetables in there as well, some carrots, some parsley, some herbs. And let's add our water to the fill line, 275 milliliters. That's how that looks like. And you can see that the sauce has a little bit of a pinkish brownish hue, which I guess is the wine sauce it is in. And then we still have a lot of drinks left to go. Some of them are hidden. Let's just make our tea easiest, our tea with lemon flavor. Then we have our instant soup vegetable broth. So that's a little bit clumped up. Then we have this very large 38-gram stick of instant cocoa beverage, also made by Odifo, but it doesn't have the same branding. You don't get 1, but 2 of these actually. So very fine cocoa powder with sugar, probably some milk powder as well, and only 200 milliliters. One more drink to go in this ration of infinite drinks. Now we have our exotic flavor drink. There we have that. And then we have only 3 more components to go. We have 85 grams of our cake with lemon flavor. So I presume this is sort of a pound cake kind of thing. That smells really nice. We got this little pound cake. It's very moist actually. It comes in its own little wrapper. And then we have, as a final component, our chocolate, 40 grams of that. And there it is. It bloomed quite a bit, which is surprising. This chocolate should probably be on 3 years old. So quite a heavy bloom, as the main is still rehydrating. Let's try some of our bloomed dark chocolate. On the inside, it looks quite good still. So let's try. And that's just regular dark chocolate. It's not super great. It's just commercial grade, no name, no brand chocolate that you can get anywhere. Chocolate is always good. It's 50% cacao. Just a shame of the blooming, but it doesn't affect the taste at all. What I'm more excited about is trying to take a bite of this lemon cake. Looks very intact and it's quite moist. But that's quite a dense and moist cake. You can see perhaps a little bit glistening in the middle. And that's quite nice. So it has the consistency of a brownie, which I didn't expect from a pound cake. So very moist, very dense. And inside there's this lemon curd, I presume, that has a very subtle aroma-full flavor of lemon. Probably one of the best cakes I had in MRE so far. So this held up really well. I'm gonna have the exotic drink afterwards. And I guess that's just a mix between pineapple and grapefruit. Actually, not bad. And to be honest, all of the Odifo drinks so far have been quite good. Then finally as well, just as a starter, we can have our vegetable broth. You can see some of the little pieces of carrot there. Quite a dark one, but it's just a broth. And that's okay. That's a good flavor for a vegetable broth. You don't really taste it as vegetable broth versus beef broth, for instance. But it is also very salty. Probably you could take some of the powder, just try and mix it in with the risotto to give that a little bit more. Now on to the main event. Let's see how our pasta with beef and vegetables rehydrated. It's been a solid 10 minutes now, or more than that. Let's see. The rice came out really well. Got a relatively clean bag there. Just need to scrape out the last bits. And it has quite a pleasant smell. Definitely smells like beef. But let's hope it's good, because you do get 2 of this. Decent amount of beef as well, little bits and pieces. That looks actually quite tasty. A little bit better than the risotto. So let's try a big bite of this. And that I think is actually quite a good dish. It's savory, but not too savory. The meat rehydrated really well. It's actually a bit chewy. Pasta isn't soggy at all. And it's quite a complex sort of stew-like flavor. That actually is a really nice dish. Probably it could benefit from some of the hot sauce. But yeah, this is quite a savory broth, savory sauce. And I guess it coats the little pasta bits quite well. This is definitely a step up from what you could buy in a regular supermarket. And finally, for dessert, we have a few more drinks. This is the lemon tea. Let it steep for about 5 minutes. That is black tea with lemon. There's a slight lemony flavor there. It's not super strong, but it's quite refreshing. And finally, we have this chocolate milk, very dark, very dense. And that is really, really good. It must be good, right? Because you have 40 grams or 38 grams for 200 milliliters of water. So there must really be some substance to that. Like, this is what we have left still. So we have a full main, 7 different drinks and some of the cookies. Also for breakfast, you probably wouldn't eat the muesli or the oatmeal. So overall, I think this was a great ration. I don't think there were any bad components there. I think the 2 components that I liked the least were the unsalted peanuts and the risotto with mushrooms. I think those were pretty bland, but they weren't bad. So yeah, that was a great ration. It was a lot of fun for me, especially as a Dutch person trying to review a Dutch military ration for the first time. So I hope you enjoyed it. And for my next review, I'm probably gonna go for a 24-hour Danish one, which is also exciting for me because I've never tried a Danish military ration before. And I presume, because Orifo is Danish, it will actually have a lot of the same components. So that will be interesting to see kind of choices the Danes made in their ration, knowing that it's most likely coming from the same manufacturer. That was it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you later.